This is Michelle Hawke Podcast with the English Mystic on the 13th of November 2024. Welcome to today's episode. We'll be diving into alchemy with Michelle Hawke, who is a shaman, an alchemist, and a healer based in Oregon in the USA. With decades of experience in shamanism, energy healing, and alchemy, Michelle's journey with shamanic practices started at the age of 15 when she attended her first shamanic workshop and found herself at home in this spiritual path. From there, she developed a practical and deeply rooted experience in both nature and spirit, drawing on Hungarian and Celtic shamanic lineages. Michelle's unique background combines rigorous scientific training in biology with a dedication to ancient healing traditions, blending science and mysticism in a grounded and transformative way. She works with clients worldwide to support their spiritual growth, healing, and connection to the natural world and to their own inner wisdom. Whether it's guiding others through shamanic death and rebirth, teaching the art of alchemy, or helping people unlock their intuitive gifts, Michelle approaches her practice with reverence, integrity, and a passion for empowering others. So stay tuned as Michelle shares her insights in alchemy, shamanism, and how to live a life where spirit, healing, and the magic of nature are woven into the everyday. Welcome to the English Mystic Podcast. Michelle, welcome to the English Mystic Podcast. How are you today?
I am really well, thank you, Kev. I appreciate you inviting me to be here. It's awesome to connect with you again.
Cool. And aren't you on a bit of a challenge to do lots and lots of podcasts? I remember that's why I invited you, because I saw that post that you were putting out there. How's that going?
Thank you. Yeah, I think at this point I've recorded almost 20. This might be number like 18 or 19.
Wow.
And yeah, thank you. So it's been a couple of months and I'm having some really awesome conversations with all sorts of different people. And one of the things that I'm really enjoying is that I'm primarily talking about alchemy. And so I'm getting to have conversations about alchemy that kind of go into these different niches according to the different lenses of the audience and the focus of that podcast. And it's been really exciting because alchemy truly is universally applicable.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Yeah, and you've seen a whole bunch of questions that I've put together all about alchemy, and I downloaded your beautiful presentation on alchemy into PDF, and I've looked at it a few times, and I was
Oh,
reading
thank
through
you.
it this morning as well. And some of the terms, I'm like, wow, those sound very ancient. So be
Yes.
interesting to have a bit more explanation. So, I mean, my first question is, when you say alchemy, most people will go, "Oh, that's turning lead into gold," but
Mhm.
obviously it's not that. So can you give sort of a brief explanation of what alchemy is?
Absolutely. Yeah, turning lead into gold is it's not technically inaccurate, but it is a woefully inadequate description of what alchemy actually is and what it does. I'll also say that in the spiritual community, neo-spiritual community, and personal development community, the word alchemy is thrown around a lot,
Mm.
usually used as a synonym for transformation. And again, that's not technically exactly wrong, but it's not right either, and people kind of tend to think it means something vaguely mysterious and expensive. And and what alchemy is this process of transmuting any base material, anything that is heavy, dense, dark, shadow, through this very logical, very sensical process of transmutation into its most actualized elevated form. And that's where we have the kind of the pop culture understanding of lead into gold.
Yeah.
But as I mentioned earlier, alchemy truly is universally applicable because it is rooted in fundamental truths of universal law.
Wow.
And so again, it's not just lead, it's really anything that is heavy and dense, including our own traumas, our own challenges, dis-ease and dysregulation in the body, our homes, our relationships, our careers, our systems and structures in society, anything that is in its not elevated form, or I'll say its base form, contains the seeds to make gold. And alchemy says all that which is necessary to make gold is present in the lead. And
Right.
so we know that the ingredients for our own actualization and most illuminated form already exist within our own shadow selves. It's simply a matter of moving the shadow aspects of ourself through this process of transformation in order to bring those pieces to light and full expression.
Mm. Yeah, I love that. I love the fact that it's already within us, and
Hmm.
we're looking externally, aren't we?
Yeah.
So when did you first encounter this alchemy? Yeah, when did it first come to you? Is it recent or is it many years?
It's been quite a while, and I look at. It's funny when you're saying when did I first encounter alchemy? Well, I had heard about alchemy quite a long time ago
Mm.
because it has its tentacles in in lots of traditions and lots of stories, and when I'll say kind of officially came across alchemy as a mystical practice
Right.
in about 2015 or 2016, but it was present in my consciousness long before that.
Yeah.
I think this is one of the things about alchemy is it is a very ancient wisdom tradition. It is, tens of thousands of years old. And it as since it is such an old tradition that is the foundation of many different spiritual traditions and mystery schools, we see its influence in lots of places as soon as you know what to look for. So
Mm.
when I came across alchemy in a more official way as a mystery school practice in 2015 or 2016, it wasn't so much as it wasn't like I was coming across anything new. It's like it was a light bulb of, oh, here's that thing that I've been seeing everywhere and that thing that I've been already doing in my practice. And here's the more specific terminology, like the ancient terms that you mentioned, to give me the vocabulary for what I'm already doing in my practice. And of course there was, additional refinement and learning and study of the specific mystery school spiritual technology of alchemy, but by and large it was already very familiar to me. And I think a lot of people who come into my course, I developed and I teach a 200-hour alchemy certification training course that's a year-long apprenticeship deep dive, and a lot of people who come into that course have a similar experience of it's like it's a very familiar thing already that they're getting to have develop a very deep relationship with, but they're there because they already feel the call to
Yeah.
those mysteries.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
one of my other question was going to be how does it compare to other approaches? But it sounds like it's actually already embedded in most approaches. So if you're doing shamanism, then probably you've already touched it. And if you do your course, you're like, oh yeah, I already know that, but I know it as this term or that term.
Yes. I will say I don't know if it's embedded in most approaches, but I will say alchemy, because it is such a very, very ancient mystery school that has, if you look at the cultural and historical context of alchemy, these traditions have traveled worldwide.
Yeah.
So, beginning in ancient Egypt and then traveling throughout Asia and Middle East and all the way into the Far East, and
Mm.
then migrating over into Europe and then migrating through, we have alchemy worldwide, and it has also been very influential in what we now have as the modern sciences. You can
Mm.
look at the root of the word alchemy is the same as the root of the word chemistry. And
Yeah.
we have all the ancient alchemists to thank for asking their questions about what is life, what is the nature of reality, and then doing experiments and deepening their study to answer those questions. And we now look at that as like, oh, they were scientists, and
Yeah.
also they were philosophers and spiritual practitioners.
Mm.
So alchemy definitely, again, has tremendously influenced both the realms of spiritual practice and science. And we see this again. You mentioned in shamanism, there are definitely some crossover in terms of alchemical practice and philosophy, and also animistic shamanism in practice and philosophy, and again, many different aspects of alchemy appear in different traditions.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Beautiful. Love it. And we talked about the turning lead into gold, but are there other areas where people commonly misunderstand or misinterpret what alchemy is that you've come across?
Yeah, I think one of the most common erroneous ways, I mean, in addition to using the word alchemy as a synonym for transformation, and and some meaning something expensive and mysterious. Like that is a very common misunderstanding. But I think one of the most common ways that I see people borrowing a core fundamental principle of alchemy and pretty grossly misusing it
Hmm.
is in the term as above, so below. And if you're not watching, I'm putting air quotes around this if you're listening in. But as above, so below gets thrown around a lot. And people use that term to describe everything from like religious principles to trickle down economics. And it's, again, very widely used in, with people not actually knowing what it means or where it comes from. And this is one of the core principles of alchemy, and it actually comes from the core defining text of alchemy, which is called the Emerald Tablet. And the text as translated into English, again, of course, I can't tell you the original text because I don't speak the language it was originally written in, but as it has been translated into English, says that which is below corresponds to that which is above, and that which is above corresponds to that which is below to accomplish the miracles of the one thing. And so when we look at that, we're saying, okay, it's actually not starting with above, it's starting with below, but it's referring to below and above, and it's indicating a relationship between the two.
Mm.
Now, here is, I'm going to go on a very slight tangent and go
That's allowed.
into, great, awesome, let's go. Buckle up, people. The limitations, the inherent limitations of the English language, and the inherent limitations that we have that actually distort our own perception of this of this particular mystery, where it says that which is below corresponds to or is like that which is above,
Hmm.
and that which is above corresponds to or is like that which is below. And when this text is referring to below and above, it's referring to our earthly reality, our embodied Gaian world as we know it here in the below realm of physical manifestation, and the above realm referring to a spiritual reality or an otherworldly, other dimensional, non-corporeal conscious reality.
Yeah.
And and the limitation is when it says corresponds to or is like.
Hmm.
And that, I think, it's not that it is like that, it is that it is that. And so there's um this perception of alchemy as like, oh, this is like that, but that inherently creates or implies more separation than there actually is.
Hmm.
So I think this is something that I have seen and I've thought a lot about in terms of we in the Western world who are relating to these spiritual frequencies and spiritual teachings, and the fundamental separation that is innate in the modern Western world underlying really everything about our language, our culture, our societal structures, where we live in this non-animistic society. There's inherently this kind of separation.
Yeah.
And then looking at the wisdom traditions that were tuned into that inherent connection in all of life. And it's not saying, oh, this is like that, it's saying this is that. So
Hmm.
then there's this inherent coming together of the below and above and acknowledging kind of these two simultaneously distinct and yet cohesive manifestations of reality. And again, people throw around as above, so below to imply or justify some kind of cause and effect of, again, like I said, I've seen this in trickle down economics of like, oh, as above, so like corporations spending money, then so below, the common people spending money. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no, that's not at all what that means.
Yeah. There's lots of people using it. It's like shamanism. I've heard people start using shamanism everywhere just to mean like they're an expert of something. So
Yeah.
yeah, they're like a Kajabi shaman. I was like, what? No, no.
Oh, really? Like,
Yeah.
oh, that's
It's it's
that's
it's
very disturbing,
it's
actually.
like using the word as expert, aren't they? Yeah. But yeah,
Oh,
the
wow.
emerald.
I
Yeah,
haven't come across that yet.
yeah,
Thank you
a
for
few
sharing.
times.
That's, yeah,
Yeah,
that's
be
not
careful
right.
out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, the Emerald Tablets is beautiful, isn't it? By Thoth. I've read it quite a few times, and it says you need to read this 101 times before you fully get the wisdom. So
Yeah.
I took the
At
challenge a
least.
few years ago, and I think I'm at 76, not necessarily readings, but listenings. I often listen to it when I go for a drive.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
beautiful.
I like to, one of the things I have my apprentices do in my course is to actually memorize it. And
Wow.
so then there's, yeah, and then there, it becomes this almost like a guided meditation of speaking it to yourself over and over and instilling it into
Mm,
your memory. There it creates this different access point to it and a different relationship. And you can record yourself reading it or speaking it and then listen to your own voice
mm,
speaking these mysteries over and over. It's a wonderful meditation.
I might take that one on. That sounds like a
Yeah.
good challenge.
Yeah. Let me
Thanks.
know how that goes for you.
I will. Cool. Um, I understand there's 7 stages to alchemy. Um,
Mhm.
Rather than go into huge detail, can you sort of give us an outline of what those 7 stages are?
Absolutely. Do you want me to go through and give a brief description of each one? Like what level of
Yeah,
overview are we talking? Yeah?
yeah, sounds
Okay.
good.
Great. Awesome. All right. So people, I am going to walk you through and I'm going to use some of those ancient terms that Kevin was talking about. And so if you're listening in, you're like, oh gosh, I can't remember that, then don't worry. I do have a free guide to the stages of alchemy that you can download from my website, and that has the terms on there. So you don't have to worry about what they're spelled like or remember the order they go in. And it also has a little bit more in-depth description than I'm going to give to you here. You can identify where you are in the cycle of alchemy and where you might be stuck, and it'll give common places and obstacles that people get hung up in the different stages, and then also practices to help you move through those stages more gracefully. So again, you can download that from my website. That'll be in the show notes. But here I'll give you a brief overview and also like why this is important and helpful. So I think it's important before we dive into the stages of alchemy to acknowledge like why this is really essential and useful and why everybody needs alchemy. We live in a world that really doesn't actually teach people how to engage in transformation. And, I know, Kevin, you are definitely steeped in the mysteries. And you and I, because we are steeped in the mysteries, and all of you tuning in, you might have a different relationship to this. But by and large, people generally fear and avoid and have resistance to actually making changes and transformation in their life for a variety of reasons. So, part of that is our own neurobiology. We are wired to choose and prioritize that which is familiar because familiar equals safe or at least more predictable. And then also there are transformation is generally not really culturally rewarded, and yet it's kind of funny. Like we love a good transformational story, and yet when people close to us in our lives are going through big changes, oftentimes people can feel threatened by that. So imagine, and we've all been on the receiving end of a friend coming to us and saying, I don't recognize you anymore, or feeling like, why don't you hang out with us? I thought we were into the same things. Or perhaps a partner saying, you're not the person that I fell in love with, right? And so we have this awareness that sometimes when when we change or go through transformation in our lives, it makes people very uncomfortable.
Mm,
And so there's also this fear of any social repercussion as a result of that. And most of the time, though, people just don't know where to start.
mm,
So if you're tuning in and you're hearing this, like maybe you're in a job that you kind of hate, or you're in a partnership that just isn't right for you, or you're living in a house or in a city that feels like it's not the right place to be, but you're like, gosh, what do I do? Where do I even start? Right? This is the place that most people find themselves in. And so with this, alchemy, the 7 stages of alchemy, offers a roadmap to how to go about in a very sensible way the process of actually making transformation in your life.
mhm,
Because when we understand the stages of transformation, we can collaborate with them effectively in the most aligned way rather than feeling like we're throwing spaghetti at the wall or like we're being dragged behind the car that somebody else is driving. I know we've all been in that boat of, and this is something I like to tell my students: choose change before change chooses you.
mm,
We all know that feeling too, of we get the whisper, hey, that's not right. You should do something different, and we ignore it because we're not sure what to do. And then it gets a little louder. Hey, this thing isn't right. Go ahead and do something different. And then eventually, bam, it becomes a slap in the face. So here's how to avoid that by working with the stages of alchemy. The process of alchemy is cyclical. It is a 7-stage process that we will be going through throughout our entire lives. So, yeah, I'm going to describe this in a linear sense. And please also understand that it's possible to be in more than one stage at once. And it's possible to also loop through different stages before making it all the way to the end. So, again, I talk about it in a nice, neat way. We don't actually really experience it that way, but knowing where we are is really helpful. The cycle of alchemy is divided into 3 phases, which are called the death phase, purification phase, and rebirth phase. Now, death, purification, and rebirth, we also see in shamanism. So, Kev, to go back to what you're talking about of the connections and alignments between these different mystery school traditions. But the 3 phases are further subdivided into 7 stages, and the first stage is called calcination. Calcination is the loss and death of physical structures. So, examples of this in our life might be quitting your job or losing your job, losing a loved one, ending a relationship, and even cleaning out your closet can be a calcination activity. Because if you're losing or saying goodbye to physical structures, you're getting rid of stuff that might not fit you anymore, or that might not be aligned with your personal style, or might not be in connection with your current identity structure. So that is also, or moving your house. Kev, you just moved.
I
You
just
had
wrote
a
that
whole,
down. That's me at the moment. Calcination, moving house,
awesome,
removing
great,
boxes, throwing things away. Yep, going to the
totally.
job. Yep.
Wonderful. Oh, good job. Okay, yeah, I was there several months ago. I moved to a new place and it was definitely a big old purge going
Yep.
on.
It's good to
Um,
do, isn't it? It's good to do to remove things that you've held on for years and you don't need anymore.
Absolutely. It's essential. And, again, we are looking at the cycle of transformation. The cycle of transformation begins with letting go. It
Mm.
begins with saying goodbye to that which doesn't fit us anymore, no
Yeah.
matter what that might be. And then the second stage of alchemy is called dissolution. So this is the loss or death of energetic and emotional structures. And people often experience calcination and dissolution in connection with each other. Because as we're saying goodbye to physical structures, we're also going through energetic and emotional process like grief work or forgiveness practice. Or, maybe you're getting rid of stuff that you're like, oh, thank goodness I never have to see that shirt again. But also maybe you're like, oh, here's my favorite pair of jeans that I wore so many times. They're completely in shreds. And I like, even though they're just rags at this point, like I'm still kind of sad.
Mm.
Right. And so going through this process of, remembering who you were and really appreciating and honoring that experience that you had with that thing and letting it go. Or in the
Mm.
case of, losing your job or ending a relationship, going through the grief work of saying goodbye to that person or to that role and who you were in that context. So this is a very critically important part of the alchemy cycle. And again, these two, beginning with death, people don't really like to hear that transformation begins with death, but it's very important because it makes space for what is ready to emerge. Like you cannot have the phoenix can't be reborn without going up in flames first. And here in the northern hemisphere, we're shifting into winter. The leaves are falling off the trees. The light is getting shorter. We know spring is going to come again and the flowers are going to bloom. But in order for that to happen, there needs to be this phase of letting go and rest and stillness before the rebirth can occur.
Mm.
So now we shift out of the death phase and into the purification phase. And the third stage of alchemy is called separation. Now, this is where people think transformation starts because it's a little bit more analytical. And when I ask people, how do you think transformation works? Most people come up with something about like, oh, I think it's like you think about what you want and you make a vision board or something like that, or you do some kind of visioning.
Mhm.
And there is a place for that. It's this place. It's stage 3. It's not stage 1. So you do get to do that. You get to imagine and be in your visionary consciousness and create something and also analyze. This is where you get to make your pros and cons lists. You get to say, okay, now that I'm done with that job, here are the things that I really hated that I never ever want to do again. And here are the parts that I really enjoyed that I want to make sure I keep. Or now that Kev, you just moved house, right? So you have been through this kind of sorting, purging. And we all know, everybody here has moved before. We all know that there's the initial sorting and purging before you move, but then there's more of it when you actually get there, right? Like you're still getting rid of stuff, I bet. Yeah. So this is the additional, okay, I thought this was going to make it, but now that I'm here in my new house, gosh, that like chair just really doesn't fit here. And, as much as I like it, it's got to go. It just doesn't fit. So this is, again, that sorting, organizing, having perspective and discernment.
Yeah.
And then stage 4 is called conjunction. This is where we start to put things together in a new form. So this is in our examples that we've been going through. This is where maybe you're putting your resume together, writing a new cover letter and applying to jobs, or you get a temp job. Or this is where you put your dating profile together and you start going on dates with somebody. Or this is where you write the first draft of your book. So this is not the final form, it's an initial form. The biggest mistake people can make in this stage is mistaking that initial form for the final version. We all know that first draft of your book is not the final draft, right? Kev, you're a very prolific author. You've been through this process many times, right? Yeah. So
Definitely.
yeah. Okay. So we get to enjoy and appreciate the first draft for what it is. We get, and also, the first person you date out of after you're out of a long-term relationship may or may not be the person that you're going to end up with. It's okay to have some, get back out there, go on some dates, enjoy people's company before jumping into your next commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're shifting into the rebirth phase. So here, the stage 5 is called fermentation, and this is the reanimation or spiritization stage. So this is where that initial form comes to life. And in alchemy, there's this principle around, again, spiritization. So it's receiving that animating force, connecting that initial form. You can think of it like a clay golem, right? Like it's a form, it's a shape, but it's not alive yet. Or
Yeah.
it's like Frankenstein's monster, where it's like a bunch of body parts sewn together on the table, and then when it comes to life, there's that moment, like sitting up, taking a breath, right? And so in our lives, we might experience this, like say you've been. We all know that feeling of when it goes from dating to being in a relationship because of that animating force that comes in, that force of love, right? And so you're enjoying somebody's company, and then there's this wonderful chemistry and love and connection, and then you decide to make it official and you're in a relationship. Or say you start your new job and you're just kind of figuring it out, and then one day you go in and you realize, like, oh, I've got this, I'm comfortable, I'm here, I'm arrived.
Mm.
And yeah, and so there's this bringing our creations to life, or bringing these new structures to life. And then the 6th stage of alchemy is called distillation. Chemical distillation, for those of you who know how this works, it is the repeated process of evaporation and condensation of a substance. In the most common or most famous example is alcohol, to create this very concentrated, very pure essence of the substance. And so what this looks like in our lives is maybe you're in this new relationship and you go through some stuff together as a couple. You go through those rites of passage initiations of meeting the family and going out and meeting the friends and going through some challenges together, and then you end up coming into this like really strong concentrated essence of your identity in a partnership. Or in your job, you're going through, you get some challenging clients and assignments, and you really anchor into, okay, this is my role, this is what I'm doing here. Maybe in your business, for those of us who are entrepreneurs, you're really distilling, okay, who are the people that you're helping? What is your core message? What is your core offer, and how you're serving people? Whereas, Kev, you're here in your new house, you're going to be going through, okay, this is going to be your first winter in your new house, right? So you're going to be going through some of this, like, okay, where's all the stuff go? How do we really settle into our groove, coming into like, this is home?
Mm-hmm.
And then the final stage of alchemy is called coagulation. This is the philosopher's stone stage, where we reach that place of completion and radiance, and it is said that here is the gold. And beyond that, of creating the philosopher's stone, this is also the place historically where that philosopher's stone is able to transform any metal into gold and create the elixir of life. And I look at that as, okay, by transforming ourselves, because this is a very deeply personal process. The alchemist isn't just working on things externally in their lives, they're working internally to create that transformation. But we don't transform in a vacuum. We know that by us as the alchemist going through this very deep initiatory process and entering into the crucible, we are also sharing that transformation with everyone in our life, or in our lives, and everything in our lives, and rippling this out beyond us. So by saying the philosopher's stone can transform any metal into gold, that's talking about our power, our transformational power to emanate these mysteries and emanate the benefits of our own transformation into the world around us to help inspire that transformation in others. And creating the elixir of immortality refers to, once we harness this cycle of alchemy, like that is the true nature of immortality, of the ability to die and be reborn again and again and again, as we know that we will throughout our entire lives. And then in coagulation, remember, we're not done. We get to prepare to enter the cycle again.
It's never stops, does it? It's always cyclic. Yeah.
Thank goodness. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it'd be boring otherwise, wouldn't it?
right, exactly. It's the the beauty of natural law and universal law. Just like, we don't live in perpetual summer. We get to go through the cycle of seasons and appreciate them for the gifts that they bring always.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
at both stages, some of the names are quite strange, aren't they? That they're not names you wouldn't normally be speaking those.
Yeah.
Calcination. I mean, whenever you ever used that term.
Yeah, calcination means to take down to the bone. Like you can look at the word like calcify or calcium, right?
Yeah,
Like our bones.
makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, and that's definitely a stage. I can see I've been going through the first two stages definitely, and in
Mhm.
other areas of my life, yeah, I'm in different stages. So my authorship is in different stages to my moving house compared to my
Yeah.
shamanic stuff compared to the podcast. So I can see that you can be in different levels. I mean, if someone's like, I've no idea which level I'm in, uh, is there something other than reading through your beautiful PDF? Is there something that could help them figure out which stage they are in for maybe a certain part of their life? I don't know, let's say their relationship.
Yeah, I mean, my guide is a really good place to start because it'll help you go through that map. And then, of course, listening to this episode as well. But like I said, if this is calling to you, I do have that deep dive apprenticeship. A year-long commitment is not for everybody. But if it
Mhm.
does call to you and that's something that you want to study, then I do teach people how to work with the process of alchemy in a very powerful and intimate way.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Mhm.
And do people often get stuck in a certain stage? Have you sort of noticed that they get stuck in maybe, I don't know,
People can get
calculation or something?
People can get stuck in every stage, honestly. So there are different pitfalls to every single stage.
Yeah.
I think the ones that I see generally very commonly are people kind of avoiding entering into the process in the first place because they're afraid of the death phase.
Yeah.
So people just avoiding and resisting the calcination and dissolution altogether, but then they can get stuck in both of those. And I
Mm.
see this as people who are, I'll call them wallowers, like people who are flopping around in their grief and pain for years and years, and we all know some of those people, right?
Yeah.
But because they're and this can be for all sorts of reasons, but oftentimes there's um either unwillingness to let go of trauma identity,
Mm.
or perhaps even just not knowing how
Mm.
to go through the into creating anything new. So there's that. And then there's also people can get stuck in separation because they never get out of their minds, and analysis, and the brain is a very comfortable and safe place for them to be. So they never actually take action to put anything new into the world. And people can get stuck in fermentation because either they're so busy, like just enjoying the initial form, they don't realize there's something else after that. And so they keep like, not ever shifting beyond that. Yeah, people get stuck everywhere.
Yeah, I've
Honestly.
seen that with some author friends where they get stuck in the book's ready and they're afraid to actually publish it, so they go back into doing
Yep.
things on it, and it's like been going for 3 or 4 years. Yeah,
Yep.
it's interesting to see. And is
Oh yeah.
there like a common denominator that says that you're ready to move to a next stage? Is there like a plateau or something, or is there anything that sort of makes you think, yeah, I am ready to move?
Yeah, I think it's individual or that's a case by case basis. I don't really have a hard and fast, easy answer for
Yeah,
that.
that's all.
It does, yeah, it depends on each person, and also recognizing again, it's like you don't. I think there's also this piece of you don't have to have completed the stage like totally perfectly. You don't have to be perfect to
Yeah.
move on to the next thing. Like you want to work with that as well and effectively as you can, but also recognizing like we are inherently always going to be somewhere in this cycle at some point. And there's nothing wrong with that. So Kev, like you mentioned, you're in a different place in with your move right now than you are with your podcast, than you are with your shamanic work, than with the dragon stuff. Like, and there we have these different components in our lives that are at different places in the cycle of transformation. So at any given moment, our attention might be called to those differently. And then the practices that we're doing, here's the other piece is once you know what stage you're in, then you can engage with specific practices, movement practices, meditation techniques, ritual work, working with different guides and deities, invoking different spiritual forces according to these different stages to help you transmute those energies and then move on to the next stage. So there's not really a hard and fast answer about how to know when you're done. It is definitely kind of a felt sense thing. Usually people do have an experience of they feel they feel either a sense of completion, which is different from just wishful thinking of, gosh, I'm really tired of this, I want to move on. And we've
Yeah.
all been there too. But there's this sense of completion, or they notice the energy in their life naturally starts to shift into the next stage because they have shifted into the next stage.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
it makes sense. I mean, I like the idea. I'm definitely going to sit down and go, okay, for my podcast, what stage am I in, and for my
Yeah.
shamanic stuff, and then think, I was like, how do I move forward? And maybe I am just spinning my wheels in one stage and not realizing because I've got too much attention over here. And so yeah,
Hmm.
I can really see its use. It's great. I mean, is there a
Yep.
stage you personally find yourself getting stuck in or finding a challenge from moving from? Do you have like
Yeah.
a favorite one where I'm staying here, it's comfortable?
I used to loop through the first three stages
Uh,
pretty consistently. And I recognized that again, when I came across alchemy, I was like, oh, okay. It
Light bulb.
definitely,
Yeah.
right. And it was a very, very like obvious shine a light on my own shadow patterns
Mm.
of
Yeah.
and this was again, gosh, this was like 2015 or 2016, and this was following a really difficult period of time in my life where I had a lot of shadow initiations where I was doing a lot of cleansing, a lot of both the calcination and the dissolution work, like a lot of dissolution work. And so I was in this space of, okay, gotta, embrace death, embrace the darkness, clear, purge, release. And so I felt like I was kind of looping through. And that's when I talk about people getting stuck in calcination and dissolution.
Mm.
Almost, it becomes almost this like self-punishy
Mm.
way of relating to cleansing and clearing and death. And that's what I was doing. And then I would get into the separation stage and start to have the higher perspective and the analysis and then decide, oh, I need to go back in and clear that thing when
Yeah.
actually I really was ready to put stuff in motion, but I was still stuck in the cleansing and the
Mm.
death phase. So I have learned a lot since then. Now I look at I think I'm much less likely to get stuck in any given stage, but the because I know this now and it's easier for me to move more fluidly through them. But I think there's Yeah, I don't think I really get stuck anymore. I think I'm much more comfortable navigating between them. I do still recognize in myself a little bit of that, like, gosh, I really don't want to have to let go of that thing, but okay, I'll do it. So like a little bit of resistance, but I do lean into it.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think mine was that is the perfection stage of like, especially when you're writing a book and you get to a point where you think it's okay and it should be released because it can be version one and version two, three can be better. But
Yeah.
I often do that when I go back and go, I'll give myself another month. And yeah, and
Yeah.
I can see how I can put those stages in and say, okay, you're getting stuck. You need to move forwards. So yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there a simple practice that you could share with our listeners to sort of help them, support them in the transformation? So if they're sitting with these seven stages, is there something
Yeah.
to sort of help them move through it?
Absolutely. I'll do you want me to lead a practice or describe a practice that people can do on their own
If
later?
you want to lead one, it'd be beautiful. Yeah,
Do we have time for that?
yeah, of course we do.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll lead a brief one.
Yeah.
So this is called a bain-marie meditation. So like a like the double boiler really is where people would probably know of a bain-marie from. And this is a practice associated with the dissolution stage. And I'm bringing this in because, the dissolution, again, it's the emotional and energetic loss and death stage. And again, this is particular to grief work and pain, letting go, releasing hidden trapped emotion, releasing old identity structure. And I think that this is an area where a lot of people need a lot of help right now.
Yeah.
And here in the US, we're recording this after the election. I don't know, people get this in the next couple of weeks or so. But there are a lot of people right now here who are very afraid and experiencing a lot of pain and a lot of grief. So this is, I think, again, not unique to the US, but there are just a lot of people who are really struggling right now. So this particular meditation is a very simple, very gentle way to help release any really troubling emotions and help us to come to more peace.
Sounds beautiful.
So I invite you, as you're listening in, you can go ahead and close your eyes and take a moment to just wiggle around in your chair, get comfortable, and really sit back and be supported. Do not listen to this while you're driving. So just take the space to be with it. And we're going to take a few breaths to drop fully into this space of relaxed receptivity, beginning with the exhale, breathing everything out. Deep breath into the belly. And exhale with a sigh. Again, deep breath into the belly. And exhale with a sigh. 2 more. Deep breath into the belly. And out. 1 more deep breath in. And let it go. Continue to flow with the breath, feeling it wash in and out like waves. And as you flow with this breath, I invite you to imagine that you are walking down the beach on the ocean shore. And with every breath in, you hear the waves come crashing and running up to the shore. Maybe they lap your feet a little bit. And as you exhale, that water goes back out to the ocean. And you walk down the beach, just at the water's edge, feeling those waves come in and out with your breath. And let us also acknowledge this is a nice tropical beach. So you're happy to have the water come up over your feet. This feels good. And as you continue to walk down the beach, you see a little tide pool. And this little tide pool is the size of a nice big bathtub. And you're like, gosh, that looks good. I'm going to get in there. And so you can go ahead and climb on into the tide pool. And as you inhale, the water pours into the tide pool gently, and it lifts you and supports you. And as you exhale, that water pours back out to the ocean. You inhale, and the water rises and supports you in this warm, beautiful embrace. And exhale, and the water goes back out. And as you relax in this tide pool, I invite you to imagine that that water is helping to dissolve any painful feelings, any stuck emotions, or hidden, trapped things that are ready to go. And when that water pours into the tide pool, it's helping to dissolve away your pain, your grief. And when you exhale, that water carries those feelings back out into the ocean where they may be dissolved and returned to the void. And continue with your breath for several breaths, inviting in this beautiful, warm, salt, nourishing water to swirl throughout your being and helping to dissolve away that which is ready to go. And as you exhale, it pours back out to the sea. It is very common for people to have some tears come up during this meditation, and I invite you to let them flow. Alchemy looks at the salt in our tears as the dissolved crystals of those painful feelings. So invite the salt water of the ocean to help you release your own salt water and let those feelings go. Breathe in and invite the wave to come in and dissolve any hidden trapped emotions. And as you exhale out, they are carried away. And for now, this is a brief practice. So for now, we're going to offer gratitude to the tide pool and to the ocean. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Know that you can return here anytime. But when you're ready, let's go ahead and climb out of the tide pool, feeling refreshed, feeling nourished, feeling supported, and washed clean by these nourishing ocean waves. Then you make your way walking back down the beach, feeling lighter than before, feeling the waves lapping your feet. And with every step, you come back more aware and more present in this moment that is now, feeling the weight of your muscles and bones. Go ahead and wiggle your fingers and toes, fluttering your eyelids, and when you're ready, opening your eyes. Welcome back. Give a little stretch.
That was divine. I didn't want to
Awesome.
leave the pool. I was sort of up and down, up.
Uh-huh.
It's beautiful, and I had a release as well. But I mentioned my uncle Bob, bless him. He got his wings, and we're celebrating his life next week. And
Mm,
I felt myself release the grief a bit and feel more in celebration. So thank you. That was
mm.
beautiful.
Oh, you're so welcome. I'm happy to hear that. Blessings for his crossing.
Mm.
Yeah, again, you can do that practice for much longer than we did. It's a very relaxing, very soothing meditation, and people often do have releases or emotions just liberate in that. And that was a very short, tiny version. So all of you who are listening, please feel free to revisit that meditation and spend as long as you want in the tide pool. Again, very common for people to cry in that. And you can even take a bath and lay in the bath and do that meditation. That's really wonderful to do that with Epsom salts, but it also works on dry land.
Beautiful. Love it.
Hmm. Yeah.
Cool. So I'm sure our listeners are now very intrigued to learn more. And how can they contact you? And what offerings do you currently have? Obviously, you have your year-long course. Is there anything else you
Mm.
want to share with the listeners?
Thank you. Yeah, so everyone tuning in, I invite you, please do reach out to me if you like. You can, like I said, download that free guide to the stages of alchemy from my website. And that includes, again, where people commonly get stuck. And it includes, common blocks and practices also to move through the cycle more easily and gracefully. Yes, I do have that 200-hour alchemy certification training that begins in the spring, and I'm currently taking applications for that right now. So if that does call to you, let's have a conversation and see if that course is the right fit for you in your path. And if you're like, gosh, that sounds cool, not sure if I'm ready for that yet, then go ahead and reach out to me anyway. And I do have ways to help you prepare for the alchemy course. Or if you're like, that sounds cool, but not into that. Then I offer one-on-one mentorship as well, training and support and in healing work and shamanic practices, mediumship, energy medicine, etc. And I am going to be offering a series of free classes and alchemy transmissions that are working with these different principles. And so you can get on my email list so you can get notifications for that. And definitely there's a lot more goodness to tune into. So go ahead and send me an email if you like. Let me know what you think of this episode. I'd love to hear from you. And if you got something out of these alchemy teachings, then drop me a line.
Beautiful. And you've got your own podcast as well with your beautiful sister, haven't you?
I do. Yes, it's called
Shaman.
Shaman Sister Sessions, and it's on YouTube and all the places that you can find your podcast. So if you like what you heard here and you want to hear me talk a lot more about mysticism and spiritual teachings, then please go ahead and tune into that. And Kev, invitation still stands. I'd love to have you as a guest on there. And I know we meant to do that in time for the last Dragon Summit, but let's make it happen once you're settled into your home.
Perfect. I'd love to. Yeah, sounds
Great.
good. And
Thank
is
you.
anything else you'd love to share? Well, you've got the audiences here.
I would like to just invite everybody to tune into that. Choose change before change chooses you.
Mm.
Ooh, I had a sneeze. Oh, it got lost. Okay. Um, we again, there's so much fear and resistance and trepidation about transformation in our lives, and I think it is vitally, vitally important that we become a little more fluent in how to work with that. Not only for ourselves. Here's the other piece is I really do firmly stand for that out, we don't transform in a vacuum.
Mm.
And what we do for ourselves on the I am level, we also must hold in awareness for the we are and the all is. It is imperative right now for all of us, whether or not you're a practitioner. I know there are going to be practitioners tuning in and listening to this. And then also, if you're on your own healing journey, even if you're working in academia or in politics or environment or waste management, no matter what you are doing, it is very, very important to remember that the healing work and transformation work that we do for ourselves, we are also doing for all beings everywhere. And I want you to be supported in that. So if any of this calls to you and this is sounding like, yes, I want some help with that, then please do circle back with me because it is a global imperative at this time that we come into our healing and our own highest expression for ourselves and as a global community. So let's step up and know that we're in good company as we do so.
What a beautiful message. Thank you very much. Of course, all the show notes will have all of the links. Your main website is michellehawke.com, but of course, people will find that in the show notes. So, Michelle, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. I love that beautiful smile of yours, and I love the deep way that you go into everything that you share, and it is beautiful. And yeah, I am now definitely going to be using this beautiful new skill. And yeah, I'd love to be on your podcast as well. So,
Oh,
thank
wonderful.
you very much.
Thank you, Kev. This was so much fun. I really enjoy our conversations. Thank you for inviting me to be here. And I hope this is helpful to all of you who are listening. Again, please drop me a line and happy integration.